Hey guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg, with a quick preview of the iPhone 6 Plus leather case from Apple. So this is shipping just ahead of the iPhone 6 Plus, so we're going to be using a mock-up here which accurately represents the design of the iPhone 6 Plus, so you can decide if this is a case you may want to pick up this Friday with your iPhone 6 Plus. Now there's a version of this case also sold for the 4.7-inch iPhone 6. They're just scaled to size and $5 cheaper. This is $49, is available in black, product red, olive brown, midnight blue, and soft pink. So fewer colors this time than the iPhone 5S leather case that launched last year. Now Apple describes this case as natural leather instead of aniline dyed leather, which is kind of interesting. And as you know from the iPhone 5 and 5S cases, the leather cases do have a tendency to wear over time. They kind of patina, especially at the edges, and discolor. And for a lot of people, that was pretty off-putting. Now I actually like the way the iPhone 5 and 5S cases wear it, although I think it's better suited to certain colors like brown, red, or black. And if you want to avoid the look of weird leather, just get the black version. I think you'll be better off. In fact, Apple has quietly discontinued all the iPhone 5 and 5S cases other than black. Now, if you're not a fan of leather or the price tag, Apple does sell a silicone version of these cases for both the 4.7-inch and 5.5-inch iPhone 6. Alright, so let's go ahead and crack open this case. So just pull this tab and slide out the case. Should be on the little tray here. Alright, just pop it off the cardboard. So there we go. Again, it looks very similar to the iPhone 5 and 5S leather cases, complete with that velvet-lined interior for cushioning the phone. The big difference here is the open bottom, which makes the case feel a little more flimsy when it's off the phone. Now the interior liner is color matte, so if you had the red version, this would be red, and so on. Now of course you have iPhone branding, designed by Apple in California, assembled in China, and you'll have a little mark here that indicates natural leather, which is different from the iPhone 5 and 5S leather cases, which had no such indicator. Now if you look at the inside, you'll see the volume buttons are wrapped in leather, and there's a cutout for the mute switch. You also find a cutout for the camera, microphone, and LED flash. And on the right side, you'll find the reposition sleep-wake power button. Now, just like the 5 and 5S leather cases, there's a black ring around the camera to mitigate flash glare. Now, on close inspection, you can see that the leather grain is slightly different on the new cases versus the iPhone 5 and 5S leather cases. Now, as you can see, when the case is not on the phone, the leather kind of wrinkles when it bends. Alright, so let's go ahead and snap the phone in place. Just drops into place and fits pretty snugly here. So with the phone in place, you can see the camera cutout perfectly fits the camera module as well as the flash and microphone. And you can see with the raised camera lens on the iPhone 6 Plus and 6, you can see that the case does a nice job sort of surrounding it and protecting it from scratches. On the left side, you have your volume controls, which do loosen up over time as leather wears in, so they feel a little more tactile as you use the case. You also have plenty of room to operate that mute switch, which is non-functional on this dummy. And on the right side, you have your sleep-wake power on and off button, which again loosens up the more you use the leather case. Now, unfortunately, the bottom of the phone is unprotected, but you do have a wide opening for your speaker grill, your lightning port, as well as your microphone and headphone jack. Now, you can see there is some edge protection for the bottom, but again, if you angle it with the curve of the phone, you can see it's actually pretty exposed here, so you can imagine things kind of banging against the edge here and scratching it up. Now, if you look at the front of the phone, it precisely wraps around the metal of the phone while leaving the glass exposed. So, in theory, if you find a screen protector that can accommodate the curved glass edge, you shouldn't have problems with this case. Now, to my eyes, it looks like the case overlaps the bottom edge of the phone just a bit more than the rest of the case, possibly to give it extra strength where the case is weakest. Now there's a pretty ample ledge around the glass to protect the phone when you lay it flat on the table or perhaps in impact. So if you drop the phone, at least the edge here will provide some protection. Now the case itself is very lightweight and thin and does add a nice grippable texture to a otherwise slippery device. So this actually makes the iPhone 6 Plus a little more comfortable to handle. So I'm definitely a big fan of having a case, especially on the design, the more rounded, slippery design of the iPhone 6 Plus. But the case itself doesn't seem to quite have the fine grain of the original 5 and 5S cases, so that's a little disappointing. It doesn't look as high quality. It feels pretty much the same. It's got that nice soft texture to it, while the iPhone 5 and 5S case does have an even softer, finer texture to it. So I actually prefer the feel of the iPhone 5 and 5S leather case versus the new cases. Now I think I can understand some of the material and design changes of the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus case versus the iPhone 5 and 5S. The leather is a little coarser, a little shinier, a little smoother than the soft, fine-grained leather on the iPhone 5 and 5S cases, which of course did not weather very well. At least it didn't weather to a lot of people's satisfaction. And then with the open bottom design here, that means you don't have those small pieces of plastic and leather surrounding the ports, which did have a tendency to fail. In fact, both the 5 and 5S cases I have here have broken headphone ports. Now, they didn't separate because the leather is holding it together, but the plastic underneath is cracked. And with an even thinner design here, you can probably understand why they decided to leave that completely open. But in the end, I still want full 360-degree protection for my $1,000 iPhone 6 Plus, so I'm probably going to be looking for a case that provides that. So that's going to do it for me in this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.